Only earning $750 a month is like having a college student's allowance. Even students working at bars make more. Having a low-income wife is a disgrace. Maybe you should divorce so her son can find a better wife. After all, he's the ultimate triple threat. My mother-in-law keeps making snide comments after seeing a pay stub, but it's not actually mine. My name is Amanda, and I'm a 32-year-old nurse. I've been married to John for 5 years. We met at a college club, started dating, and eventually got married. We first met at a party when he was a medical student and I was a nursing student. John hasn't passed the medical licensing exam after failing twice and taking 3 years off. He is currently working part-time and studying hard for the exam. I'm working as a full-time nurse, so I'm the primary breadwinner. John isn't the type to brag about making money in cosmetic surgery or post pictures of a $468,000 Rolls-Royce on social media. He's serious and dedicated, reading accounts of people who've lost family members to illness, checking the number of people affected by infectious diseases daily, and studying literature on Japan's healthcare system. I respect him, even though he isn't a doctor yet. He genuinely wants to become a doctor to save his patients, so I didn't abandon him despite his lack of income as he entered his 30s. He kept the fact that he wasn't a doctor yet a secret from his parents. "Sorry, my mom is too nosy," John said. "It's fine. I support you so you don't have to worry about your parents. Live your life the way you want. This is short term," I reassured him. That's why it remained a secret. The reason it wasn't discovered was that he worked at night as a security guard at the hospital where I worked, so he was technically employed there. He had knowledge and could obtain information from my stories on the job. No one suspected he wasn't a doctor yet because he could talk like one. So to the seldom seen in-laws, I said, yes, patients really like him. I believe that while cruel lies hurt people, kind lies sometimes save them. Telling a patient, "You have 3 months left and there's no chance of recovery," creates a countdown that's often worse than saying, "You look good today, and you ate a lot." That's how people are. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, who is the complete opposite of my serious and honest husband, has a very harsh personality. She's the typical overbearing mother-in-law. She looks down on me for being a mere nurse married to her son, the doctor. "There must have been so many better options," she often says, like a beautiful dermatologist. I always apologize and bow my head when she talks like that. I wholeheartedly support my husband in his pursuit of becoming a doctor, but at this point, he's just a high school graduate with extensive medical knowledge working part-time. He's not even a medical intern yet. But my husband is genuinely grateful to me, always saying, "Thank you for everything." So I silently support him. In fact, I'm also very busy with work. Our combined income is barely enough to make ends meet, but it couldn't be helped. I didn't care much about money as I entered this world because I genuinely admired Florence Nightingale. Currently, I'm a nurse in internal medicine, the most demanding field in terms of workload. The thought of wanting money hasn't even crossed my mind. As long as we can live, eat, and stay healthy, that's enough. Isn't that ultimately what life's about? Despite the fact that I'm supporting my husband's living expenses and tuition, my mother-in-law goes around the neighborhood saying, "My son is a doctor and earns well." If he were a serious doctor, he wouldn't want his mother to brag about his income, good or bad. But my mother-in-law doesn't care and only talks about money, money, money. As her son, he has no choice but to silently endure it. She is completely unaware that he is actually working as a security guard in uniform at the hospital instead of walking briskly in a white coat like she brags about. Even if he were walking briskly in a white coat, it's not something to brag about and gossip about. I understand the feeling, but it should be restrained. I was worried that my husband's mental state might be affected and he might fail the medical licensing exam. He's barely hanging on to his dream of becoming a doctor. If he ends up spending his entire life as a security guard after enduring this long journey, it would be a shame. Moreover, his personality is well suited for a doctor. His only weakness seems to be his kindness. That's why my mother-in-law's speculations like claiming my son makes $373,000 a year only add more pressure on him. Knowing that's false only makes things harder for him. Once I gently voiced my disapproval. I think it would be better for the patients if he didn't talk so much about his job because it might cause problems. After all, if you think about it from the opposite perspective, would you want to go to a doctor whose mother is constantly boasting about her son when you're sick? But my mother-in-law didn't care. Shut up. You're just a nurse. You should be grateful that you could marry a doctor. It's luckier than winning a $3 million lottery. Money can't buy status, you nursing school graduate. She spewed such verbal abuse. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for allowing me to marry John. I respect him both as a doctor and as a person, so please just leave him alone, I replied. You're so annoying. We can still make him divorce you and remarry. It would be pitiful if our future grandchild inherits your low IQ blood. This is beyond harassment. It's close to a violation of human rights. But I kept quiet. Somehow, compared to saving a patient's life or my sense of mission in my work, my mother-in-law's sarcasm seemed very trivial. I didn't really take her seriously, but as those days continued, the inevitable finally happened. My in-laws live a 30-minute express train ride from our house, so we don't visit each other often. With my busy work schedule, I wasn't around them much, which is why this lie had been working. However, whether out of boredom or impatience, my mother-in-law showed up at our house unannounced. What a cramped house. Why does my pride and joy of a son have to live in such a poor-looking place? She remarked as soon as she arrived. Seeing the row of medical books, she narrowed her eyes and said, "Well, he is my son after all," and took a picture with her phone. Most of the books were for the national medical exam, and I was secretly nervous. The presence of this year's books would normally give away that he's still a student. My vital signs were in danger of betraying me, but I did my best to deceive her. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. We're both quite busy with work, so we haven't had time to find a bigger place, especially lately. I casually urged her to go home, but she began going through my house. Hey, what's with these weird dishes? If you're a doctor, you should buy Wedgwood. Yes, I'm sorry. They're from the dollar store. What did you say? Dollar store? I'm throwing them away. No, we couldn't afford luxuries because we were spending money on my husband's textbooks and tuition, so we cut costs on things like plates that didn't affect our simple meals. As long as we can serve food on them, it's fine. For now, passing the exam is the most important thing. My husband was fortunately working as a security guard at the hospital at the time. It was a good thing he wasn't home. I didn't want to see him hurt, so I planned to get my mother-in-law to leave while he was at work. But she didn't stop rifling through our things. I'm going to throw away these clothes that look like a student's. If you're a doctor, you should buy high-end branded clothes, she declared, tossing my husband's favorite clothes into a pile. And what is this? A piece of junk watch. If you're a doctor, buy a luxury watch, she said, throwing away his smartwatch, seemingly unaware of its convenience. The belongings being discarded one after another were bought with the little money he had earned. He would have preferred to be on the wards treating patients instead of standing outside with his pride in tatters. Still, he was working hard for the sake of his dreams and for the sweat he had shed. But there was no stopping her. It's because he married a poor girl that you have a poor life, even though he's a doctor. It's a wonder you don't live in a tower mansion. Unbelievable. I was thinking of going shopping together and at least getting you to buy me a bag or something, she said. Her statement ultimately despicable. I had no choice but to point out that what my mother-in-law was expecting from my husband, student or not, was fundamentally different from how we really lived. I was a fellow medical professional. Gold digging for a doctor was out of the question. Mother-in-law, I don't mean to be forward, but he's not that extravagant. Our current lifestyle suits us well, I said. I conveyed this casually, but my mother-in-law wouldn't budge. You're so annoying. Do you have any idea how hard he worked to get into medical school? We've been waiting to recoup his upbringing and tuition fees, and it's because of you that we're in this mess. Don't be ridiculous. My mother-in-law, increasingly heated, didn't stop searching my house. She rummaged through not just the kitchen but also every closet, discarding anything cheap. Then, unbelievably, she began to open the clear cases where we kept our utility bills, mail, and other paperwork. That's when she found the pay stubs. They were marked with $750 and $2.25. Despite my husband's name being clearly written on them, she either didn't notice or couldn't read the writing. She screamed, $750? What do you mean, $750? You nurse. That's not my son's daily wage. Even anesthesiologists make $750 a day, and you're the wife of an internist making only $7.50. Are you slacking off at work or what? She began to go insane. That's why you're living in such poverty. You're a money sucker, huh? Barely working as a nurse and deceiving the doctor. You're just a part-time nurse because it sounds good. $750 is nothing, so quit already. That money was earned by him during the younger doctors passing him by, working in the gaps between his study hours for a very low daily wage. It was by no means the same with or without it. I thought it was a very pure number. But my mother-in-law's madness wouldn't stop, and finally the worst happened. You're a poor, luck-bringing wife. Divorce quickly, she demanded. At that moment, everything came to a head. I heard the front door slam shut. My husband had returned home from his part-time job. His face froze when he saw his clothes and watch cruelly stuffed into a trash bag. He began to silently and carefully pick them up, one by one. My mother-in-law spoke up. John, I don't mean to be harsh, but please divorce this wife of yours. Why did you, with your high education, high income, and tall height of nearly 6 feet, choose such a pathetic woman? I'm so sad. She only earned $750. But my husband remained silent, his lips tightly pursed, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. My mother-in-law laughed and added, I'll bring the divorce papers for you. Leave this dusty room and this disinfectant-smelling woman behind and remarry a better woman. You're a doctor. Remarrying is a given. Then my husband slowly stood up and finally said, Mom, I've been keeping quiet about this, but I'm not a doctor yet. Huh? She responded, stunned. I'm sorry for hiding it, but I haven't passed the national exam yet. And about that $750. For some reason, my mother-in-law was so surprised that she turned to me for help. I don't understand what he's saying. This $750 pay slip is yours, right? I decided there was no use hiding it anymore. No, it's not mine, I replied. My husband chimed in, that's my salary from my part-time job. That can't be. You're lying, right? She stammered. I'm not lying. It's true, he said firmly. I'm not a doctor yet. I failed the national exam twice, my husband confessed. My mother-in-law, shocked to find out her son was not a doctor yet, suddenly started acting strangely. As she rummaged through her house, she slipped on some scattered newspapers and fell to the floor, crying out for help. She managed to avoid hitting her head but broke her right arm with a loud snap. My husband and I quickly treated her and took her to the hospital, guiding her to the orthopedic department. But my husband had something important to say. Mom, I'm sorry, but please don't come to our house anymore. And I don't want you to think of me as your son anymore, he said firmly. Trembling from shock, my mother-in-law listened as he continued. I knew you were bragging about me, but I put up with it. I felt guilty for lying, but when you insulted the money I worked so hard to earn, that was too much. But I never would have guessed you were a doctor. It doesn't matter if I'm a doctor or not. Do you think I'm studying just to say I earn $750 a day? I'm an adult, and it seems like we can't reconcile our differences in value, so let's cut ties. It seemed that my husband had truly decided to sever his ties with his mother. My mother-in-law, who had found her only purpose in life boasting about her son, seemed completely disheartened. Nowadays, she stays cooped up in her house, apparently too embarrassed to face her neighbors. That same year, my husband successfully passed the medical licensing exam. Though he was a bit older, he started working as a newly minted resident physician and shone brightly, never forgetting to show kindness such as offering tea to the security guards. Our days became very peaceful and happy. If she had just waited a few more months, my mother-in-law's dream would have come true, and she could have seen him in his white coat. It's really a pity, but she brought it upon herself.